Hello everybody, welcome back to Children's Corner. My name is Tilly and I'm going to tell you a Bible story today. Now, I hope you all enjoyed our last video when we learnt the story of Joseph and how he finally met his brothers after many years when they came to Egypt during the famine to buy grain. Well, today I'm going to tell you what happens next. So make sure you're sitting comfortably and I hope you enjoy this very special Bible story. So, as we learnt in the last video, Joseph had become very important in the court of Pharaoh, and Pharaoh was the king of Egypt. Pharaoh had put Joseph in charge of many things. So, when Joseph's brothers arrived in Egypt asking for grain, they appeared before Joseph in Pharaoh's court, but they didn't recognise their own brother. It had been many years since Joseph's brothers sold him into slavery and let him be carried away into Egypt. But Joseph recognised his brothers straight away. To their surprise, this important person in Pharaoh's court, who they didn't know was their brother, prepared a special meal for them. He even sat them at the table in the order of their ages. When the meal had finished, it was time for the brothers to go back to their father Jacob. The brothers set off on their journey. But Joseph, in order to test their characters, to see if they had truly changed, or if they were still the bad brothers he knew from his childhood, had hidden a silver cup in one of the sacks. Joseph sent one of his servants to follow his brothers, and when the servant caught up with them, their sacks were searched, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. The brothers were in big trouble. They had to go back to their city and back to Joseph. When they got to the city, they threw themselves on the ground in front of Joseph. All the sacks were searched, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. Judah, one of Joseph's brothers, came forward and said, "Please let me stay here instead and let Benjamin go back to his father." Joseph now knew that his brothers had changed. He could see they wanted to protect their younger brother Benjamin, and that they were worried about their father. What can we learn from the story of Joseph? We can learn that God sees when people are truly sorry for the wrong things they have done, and that God is willing to forgive. God knows when you are truly sorry for the things you've done wrong, and he will forgive you too, if you ask him. What happened next? Well, Joseph was bursting to tell his brothers the secret he had been keeping, that he was the brother they sold into slavery all those years ago. He told his servants to leave the room, and then Joseph stood in front of his brothers and said, "I am your brother Joseph." His brothers were too shocked and too frightened to say anything. Joseph could have said angry words, but he was kind and forgiving. He explained that it had been all part of God's plan to bring him to Egypt so that he could help his family when they needed food in the time of famine. When Joseph's brothers heard this, they were overjoyed. Now there was one more person Joseph wanted to see, and that was his father. He said, "Tell my father to come to Egypt. I will look after all of you." Joseph gave his brothers gifts to take home with them. Things like grain, food, new clothing, and 300 pieces of silver. Joseph had forgiven his brothers and wanted to provide them with good things. What can we learn from the story of Joseph? We can learn that God is the giver of good things. What are the things that you most enjoy in your life? All of them come from God. He provides us with all things to enjoy, and he also provides for our needs. families, food, clothing, shelter and friends. All of these good things come from God. After Joseph had said all these things, his brothers hurried back to their father Jacob and told him the astonishing news. Jacob was overjoyed. His long-lost son, who he thought was dead, was alive and living in Egypt. So Jacob, his sons, their wives, children and grandchildren, along with all their animals and all their belongings, set off for their new home in Egypt. When they arrived in Egypt, Joseph met them in a chariot. Joseph and Jacob were overjoyed to see each other again. Joseph introduced some of his brothers and his father to Pharaoh, who told them to settle in the best part of the land, called Goshen. Joseph made sure they had everything they needed. They were to be God's special nation, as God had promised to Abraham all those years ago. What can we learn from the story of Joseph? We can learn that God has plans for those who love him. He can bring people out of bad places and into good situations. God can provide for everything that his people need. So remember, if you love God, he will take care of you. Remember to ask God to take care of you when you are in need. Perhaps you need him to help you at home or at school. Joseph trusted God when bad things happened to him. So remember to be like Joseph. So, I hope you enjoyed the Bible story. It's now time for us to learn our Bible verse. So what's in the postbox today? Let's have a look. Those who seek the Lord lack no good thing. Psalm 34, verse 10b. So, if anyone can come up to myself or Rosie in church and tell us the Bible verse off by heart, you will receive a prize. And if you're not able to make it to our church, then contact us via the church website and we will send you the colouring page for today's Bible story. And then if you send us your colouring, we will send you a prize. But make sure you tell us your age, name and address so we can send the prize to you. Thank you very much for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed the Bible story. And if you want to find out more exciting Bible stories, then head across to Children's Corner on our church website and you will find more exciting Bible videos there for you to enjoy. Bye for now.